Hello, everyone, and welcome to One in Six Supports Friday group. This is a group for parents of children with disabilities, and we are very excited today that we have Taryn from Iris Yoga in Bloomfield, New Jersey, who is going to be talking a little bit about her personal experience with disability, as well as her yoga studio in Bloomfield, where she has inclusive yoga classes, and she has some more information about a very interesting publishing company she's starting. So, Taryn, welcome. I just want everyone here to know that this will be on we are recording today, and this will be on our YouTube channel, One in Six Support on YouTube. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. So, welcome, Taryn. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so I'll kind of go through my background. So I have four daughters. We live in Caldwell, New Jersey. My oldest daughter is 14 and my youngest is 6. And I also have a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old. I, in 2019, found out I was pregnant with my fourth child. And at 12 weeks, we went in for like the 12-week, like, check the box, like you're good to go, like, you hit the 3 month mark. And they are doing the scan, and all of a sudden the whole room got quiet. The tech stopped being chatty. I immediately knew, like, my heart started racing. I immediately knew something was wrong. I didn't want to like verbalize that because I was still trying to like hold out hope that I was wrong. Maybe my gut was wrong. And then when she left the room to get the doctor, I said to my husband, something's wrong. Like, something's wrong. It's not right. This is not how it's gone. I was not new to this, so I knew like this was not right. So the doctor came in. She was also very quiet, started scanning, and was like really focusing on the NT fold of the neck, and finally said like the fold is or the NT is thick. And I knew what that meant. Like, I had heard,
Nuchal translucent.
yeah, nuchal translucent, but I knew that that was like the screen for Down syndrome. So that was like immediately what hit my head. And it's funny because that was like the thing that I was like, whew, in my three previous pregnancies, like, okay, it's fine, everything's fine. Like, no, there's nothing that could go wrong. So I had put so much weight on this, like, ironically, and then here I was in that situation. And so she gave me like a couple of options of doing a CVS test right that day or waiting and doing an amnio. I am not a waiter. I like to know things. I'm a planner. I was like, I'm not, gonna wait 8 more weeks, whatever, and then do another test. So we went right into another room. They did the CVS test, and then 5 days later, I'm driving with my other kids to the dentist, and they called. It was such a cold diagnosis. First of all, they didn't even ask me, like, is this a good time to talk? Is your husband there? Like, none of that. And it was like the test showed a third copy of the 21st chromosome, consistent with Down syndrome. Do you know what you want to do? That was like literally the two sentences. And this is 2019. This is not like decades ago.
I know they're probably busy, but they're dealing with people here.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I was like, can I talk to my husband? And she was like, sure, you can call me back tomorrow and blah, blah, blah. So, my husband and I, we, in those 5 days since the test, like, of course, I could not keep myself off of Google, and I saw all of the life-threatening things that it could have been and all of that. So we had even said, we hope it's Down syndrome because that felt easy in a way of in the list of things that like this baby might not survive, you know. So I kind of knew like we were moving forward, but we both talked about it, and then I called back the doctor, the geneticist the next day, and they had no information for me, like nothing. I was like, well, is there a support group? Is there any information you can send me? Like, what's next? And outside of like telling me about the next round of tests and all that stuff, there was nothing really that they had. She like emailed me this like photocopied article that I read like 2 pages of and then threw it out because it was like it was just the doom and gloom of like, here's all the things that could go wrong kind of thing. And listen, I had already started to put things in perspective of like there's things that could go wrong with all of us. And,
Mhm.
I was trying to like remain on the path of like, okay, we're just moving forward, put one foot in front of the other. Um, at a 16-week scan, they detected a hole in her heart, which again was something we were kind of anticipating in a way because we had heard the statistics around Down syndrome and heart conditions. Um, so we went to pediatric cardiology. We learned that she would need open heart surgery, soon after she was born. Luckily, her heart continued to grow balanced, so we were able to deliver at St. Barnabas and plan for a surgery around 2 to 3 months old. So, she actually, I always say the hardest part about her birth is that she was March 29th, 2020. So it was about 2 weeks after COVID happened.
Wait, that was when she was
That
born?
was when she was born. So my husband was able to be there for the birth, and then once he left the hospital, he could not come back. So, um, I was there for 2 days. My daughter was there for 4 days. Luckily, she was able to, I think they kind of were like trying to get her out quicker because of what was going on. Um, but luckily, she got out of the NICU in 4 days. And then we followed cardiology. And when she got to the weight that they felt comfortable with, we went to surgery at Columbia in the city. Again, that was like such a bizarre time because my husband could not come into the hospital. So he was like driving around New York because there was also nowhere you could go in New York then. This was June 2020 because he's like, I can't drive back over the bridge until I know she's okay. So I was there. She only needed a 5-day stay, but same thing. Like I could not leave the hospital at all. So I had my other kids at home. It was a very stressful time in general. I mean, outside of also her having open heart surgery, of course. But
Was
um,
she born at Columbia Presbyterian?
no, she was born at St. Barnabas,
Oh,
and
okay. Then she
then
went to
she had her
Columbia.
surgery at Columbia. So and that was, we were able to do that because, like I said, her heart continued to grow balance and they weren't anticipating a lot of like really dramatic things at birth that they were, we didn't, because that was on the table to like
Mhm.
potentially have to deliver at Columbia. But, um, so yeah, so, you know, th those early days, I felt like a fog because of COVID for the most part. A lot of her like early intervention therapies were on Zoom, which is like hilarious with an infant. Like, how do
They were showing
you-
you how to use
yeah,
stuff, I
yeah.
guess.
So, but yeah, so as she started to grow, I just started to like I like to say, I've tried to identify gaps and try to help fill them in this space. And I've spent a lot of time working on the diagnosis support. I'm on the board of an organization called the Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network that seeks to provide a neutral diagnosis and have support for families when they get a diagnosis, whether that be prenatal or at birth. And there's been a lot that organization has gotten done. They're now on the list of like recommendations for the APA when a diagnosis is identified. Um, and then, it's funny because the yoga thing happened kind of accidentally. A lot of you probably know Priya. Priya and Manal came to I did a fundraising class for World Down Syndrome Day. This is like 3 years ago, 4 years ago now. Um, and they came to take my class, and we got to be friends. Priya's become like a mentor of mine,
And
especially
and
in
and I just want to add for people who don't know who Priya is, she's a professor at Montclair State University, and she has a daughter, Manal, who has Down syndrome, who is 24, 20, no, 23,
23, I think. Yeah,
23. Yeah.
yeah. Who's like an amazing self-advocate. So the two of them have been such a wonderful connection for me. Priya's been so helpful with my own IEP processes. And, so getting to know them, uh, Manal shared with me that she wanted to become a yoga teacher. And we happened to have a training program that was starting in early 2024. And she went through the program with us. So she was part of a group of four trainees that graduated that year. And then coming out of training, I was like, okay, what can we do with this? Like, let's do something here to, create a space where individuals with disabilities could take a class, and maybe, Manal takes my regular like Sunday morning class, my regular public classes. Like, so maybe this is something where we can create a class that's like an inclusive space that then if someone wants to progress their practice and move to one of our other classes, like they have the flexibility to do that. But it's so we started a class on Wednesdays at 5. Manal and I co-teach the class. And it's been so wonderful. There's a lot of students in this area that take the class, and it's just been such a wonderful experience for all of us. It's nice to create a space because we do all the regular things of yoga, but there's a little more flexibility to it. Sometimes we get a little more chatty than other times, and but it's been wonderful to see Manal grow as a teacher. The students like create friendships in the class. A lot of them, some of them were friends already. A lot of them have become friends over the time of the class. And it's like one of my favorite parts of the week. So I've done one-on-one yoga because sometimes even coming to even this class as a sensory friendly class, and an inclusive space, that can still be intimidating for some individuals. So I've worked like one-on-one with some students, and then they start coming to the Wednesday class once they are feeling a little bit more comfortable. So we have a lot of flexibility to make something work. We became a DDD approved vendor around the time that we started this class. So a lot of individuals put it in their IFSP, not IFSP.
ISP?
Yeah, is it that?
Oh, they're ISP.
SDR. They're like
Oh.
service, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're over, just for those of you who have younger kids, after you're 21, you get a budget from the state. Is it 18 or 21? It's 21.
I think it's 21
You
after
get
you
it.
leave the
Yeah,
district.
that's right. Well, after 21, you get a budget from the state if you are eligible, if you have an intellectual disability or an ongoing disability, and you can use that money for different classes or different activities. So Taryn has gotten approved to have the Department for Developmental Disabilities be one of those classes where they can use their money from their budget.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So it's
it's
not out of pocket for the families.
right, right. So we have a lot of people that go through that route to pay for their classes. As well as like using able accounts in all sorts of ways. Like we work with anybody on how the yoga can be accessible in all the areas. And sorry. Hi, how are you? So yeah, so like that's Irish yoga, and we like again, like I want the space to be as welcoming and as inclusive as possible. So we'll work with anybody on how that can be. But it's been great as, me as a mom to a younger child to be able to create this space, not just for individuals, because we generally keep the class like 16 and over.
Age
Um,
16.
age 16 and
Okay.
over. We have a little flexibility there. We have one student now who's like a little bit younger, but just so that like, you know, we don't have a mix of like adults and children basically. However, like we can add on if there's like younger students and a group that wants to get together, we can add something like that on. But it's been wonderful for me having a younger child knowing like to create a program like this and also to create like an employment path as well. That's something that is really important to me as she, will someday be there as well herself.
Are you the only, can I
Mhm.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Are you the only person who has trained a person with Down syndrome to be a yoga teacher, as far as you know?
As far as I know around here,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And it's really, it's interesting because there wasn't a whole lot that we changed,
Mm-hmm.
And so some things I learned along the way and some things that I like take into other projects that I do, just you know, pacing, font size of manuals, like things like that that I
Mm-hmm.
try to like make sure I'm being inclusive about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not aware of anybody else, at least in this area,
Mm-hmm.
that has done that. And I'm hoping, listen, I'm hoping to inspire other people to do the same at
Yes.
their studios. And, I'd love for that to grow. I don't want to be the only one who does it. So,
And I've attended, just FYI, everyone, I have attended the class
yeah.
that she's taught, and it's no different
Yeah,
from a
it's no
regular
different.
yoga
We,
class. So it's pretty amazing and
we get all this, we
inspiring.
work everybody hard.
Yeah, yeah, she knows her stuff, and presume competence.
Yes, yes. Yeah, Manal and I have done some other, like we did a fundraising class. There is a little girl in the Down syndrome community they live in Long Island, who was going through a cancer battle. So Manal and I did a fundraising class for her. So this was like a public class that we did at the Kalaya's coffee shop in Bloomfield.
Mhm.
Um, and that was just a regular public class that raised money for the family. We were able to send them like $600 from that class, which
That's
was
great.
was fun. Um, so that's like the yoga side. As Alma mentioned, I also have started to get into inclusive publishing. I wrote my first book in 2022. I published it, and I had started writing partially about the Down syndrome diagnosis and the heart surgery and all of these things, but also like in 2021, I lost my mom, and there was like a whole lot of things that went on. So I wrote a memoir about all of these different things and was kind of looking around at like, okay, what are my options for publishing? And it wasn't great as somebody who's not a famous person.
Yeah.
It was, you know, I could go to a small publishing house. They would probably take 93% of my royalties forever, and I couldn't get a feel if anybody really felt like my stuff was as important as I felt like it was.
Mhm.
Um, and then I could go the like straight to Amazon route, which is it's fine. It's a nice, easy way to publish. But you're kind of limited in the Amazon world then as far as like how, the reach. And for me, goals of anything that I publish are broader reach, like schools and universities and nonprofits and things. So I just didn't want to like be stuck in the Amazon world. So I actually hired a publishing consultant to teach me how to form a publishing company. And there's now 7 books that have gone through the publishing company, 4 of which I've been a part of writing, and 3 that other people have written and I've been publishing for. Um, the first one was my memoir, and that was just like a passion project of mine. And then the second one is a book called Dear Mama, and it's a book of letters written by 28 different moms in the disability community, writing to a mom who just got a diagnosis.
Any kind of diagnosis or Down
Any
syndrome?
kind of diagnosis. So we have 13 different disabilities represented in the book. And it was really, again, one of those things that I was like, this was a gap. I had nothing that was like, there was a lot of resources for the Down syndrome community once I started digging, but I had friends who wound up having children with more rare diagnoses, and they would almost say to me like, you're lucky being part of the Down syndrome community because
Right.
it's so big and
Yes.
so like connected.
That's
So
how
I was
many
like,
of
well,
us
why
feel
are
about
we?
autism. We're like, why couldn't we have a kid with
Yeah,
autism?
yeah,
Everybody has
yeah,
autism,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Um, so I felt like I wanted to create something that was even inclusive within the disability space,
Mhm.
because why are we like
Yeah.
creating these little silos
Yes.
and then also asking for inclusion for our kids?
Mhm.
So it was Dear Mama. I did a children's book called Strong, Beautiful, Brave, and Smart, and it was about kind of my journey of like, getting the diagnosis and, realizing all the things that my daughter was capable of and all of that. And then I partnered with a potty training consultant. Last year, we published a book for potty training children with disabilities because,
Mm.
again, that was a gap
Yes.
that I
Yes.
found when I went to potty train my child with Down syndrome. And there was resources that were either outdated or just not, you know, kind of keeping up with like the times now,
Mhm.
or specific to individual
And that's so interesting when you
disabilities.
talk about the potty training because my daughter Gabby, she started in the school district when she was 3,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And somehow they got her potty trained
Yeah.
and they said that she was the quickest person
Yeah.
that they've ever potty trained.
That's great.
Which, because I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because autism, so I couldn't do it. And it was just amazing. I don't know what, and this is Verona School District.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's great. Yeah. I had almost like the opposite thing. They were already starting to drop that as like, weave it into conversations of like, well, I know you want like a gen ed setting, but if she's not potty trained and
Yes.
and they were already starting to weave that in, which like,
Which is
listen,
discrimination.
Yeah.
right. So I was ready to fight that in general, but I was also like, all right, let me take this out of the equation if I can. And, you know, so, she was my fourth daughter. So but I felt like all my tools were like out the window, of like all the ways I potty trained my other kids. That was like, none of those tools worked. So kind of started working with this woman, and then we got this idea to do this book, and pulled in a bunch of people from different disability experts and some therapists and all of that. So creating like a comprehensive guide for parents, no matter what we we talk about physical disabilities, we talk about intellectual and developmental and all of the different types of disabilities, sensory stuff, like all of the things we tried to cover in the book. And then the thing I'm most excited for is this, like late spring, early summer publishing. I'm working with a young man with Down syndrome. He lives in northern New Jersey, and I've been kind of mentoring him through finishing his book. He had a lot written, but then kind of needed help like organizing it, reeling it in, like editing all of those things. So that's moving into the publishing stage now, and we'll get it out in like June.
And is that a memoir, or is that
It's a memoir style of like a snippet of time in his life. He had actually gone through like he had COVID and then long COVID, and then it set off this like vestibular migraine situation. And he, so this kind of walks through this like 2 year period of his life where they were trying to figure out what was going on and get a handle of it, and and then the healing and recovery and all of that.
And
so
how old is he, just out of curiosity?
he is 24 now.
24.
Yeah. So so that's been a really fun process, and we're publishing that with accessible font and all of that, so that it's um, accessible to everybody who wants to read it. So
Fantastic.
So, okay, I get the impetus to starting your own publishing company, but then how do you, are you still able to get books out everywhere the same as a large publishing company, or is it still a little different?
Yeah, so I'm able to publish to Amazon, to Barnes and Noble, to Target.com, like all of those things. Shelf space is like a totally different animal that I have not,
What is that?
Like meaning like getting on a shelf at Barnes and Noble, like you need to have like a buyer and all of those things that like I'm just not big enough for that yet.
But I was wondering what the difference was.
Yeah, so but as far as like distribution, it's really the same channels, and then it's really just like a lot more effort on my end of like getting the word out about things, about books.
Right.
It doesn't happen as accidentally as like if someone has like a literary agent and all of that stuff.
Right,
but
right.
But being that like my niche is like the disability space, it's not really that I'm expecting people to be like perusing Barnes and Noble and looking for these books specifically.
Right.
It's more, I've been partnering with like nonprofits, and, like one of the books, the Dear Mama book is in the baskets that go out from an organization called Brittany's Baskets, which was started. It's a nonprofit started by a woman with Down syndrome to like deliver. They send baskets, and they send them nationwide. When someone gets a Down syndrome diagnosis, they send them a basket.
That's so
Of like products and stuff, like to welcome them to the community. So the book is in that. Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that like I get the books out there. That aren't the traditional ways,
Right.
because they're not traditional
anyway. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's the main difference, but
that's really
kudos to you to
Thank you.
take on something like that.
Thank you.
In addition to having a kid with a disability,
yeah, I've kind of loved learning like as she grows, and just seeing what we can do to change things along the way.
Is she in a public school?
Yeah, so we're in Caldwell.
Mhm.
She's in fully gen ed kindergarten. She
Mhm.
does have an aide. Um, so yeah, and we're like next year she'll have like a inclusion class model, so there'll be the two co-teachers in the classroom.
Great.
Still her aide and all that stuff, but she's done fantastic. I mean, she's starting to read and doing all the kindergarten
Great.
things, and I mean, she gives us a run for our money, but
Yes.
but that's okay.
Yeah, that's great. So does she participate in the yoga classes?
So it's funny because she asks me every week to come, but
Oh, she's too little.
she's
Right.
5 years old.
Right,
So,
right.
but I'll bring her like every other month and let her come. And everybody in class loves when she comes. But so yeah, she does. She'll sit like kind of in between Manal and I and like follow along. And she does love doing it. It's just, I am there. It's a job. So I can't ever there all the time.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, she loves it. And I keep telling her, I'm like, you could be a yoga teacher too. And, it's nice, again, it's nice to have these examples of things that she can do in the future and all of that. And it's helped me like not stress about the future because I'm like, the sky's the limit, right?
Exactly.
There's so much all of the work that we're all doing is little seeds that we're planting to change things for people coming next. So
yeah, and people mostly for the rest of society to see the kids, doing these things like, wow, it's really, it's so important. And yoga is so important. My son is 21 and he's been doing yoga since he was in preschool.
Yes.
And he loves it. And it's a part of his, he feels very confident about the fact that he can do some of the harder poses, because he's extremely flexible because of his disability. So he's able to.
Same with my daughter. I'm like, you're, showing off.
With Gabby, she like, when she was little, she'll put both her feet over her head, hold her iPad. I'm like,
so there's a plus,
I know. My other kids are like, she's bragging.
Right? What that is that they're so flexible.
Well, my daughter, Down syndrome is very consistent with low tone, so that's why she's so flexible. So,
It's like,
at
18, you still got putting your head over your head.
The low tone. It's a part of it. So but it's so nice, obviously for relaxing reasons, for bringing down the cortisol levels, but also just feeling like you're a part of something that everybody else is doing.
Exactly.
In society, you're taking yoga classes.
Well, and there's something about the community aspect of it. And that's like, that was what drew me to yoga, like 15 years ago. Was for my own mental health, but also like being in a studio with other people and like feeding off of that energy. And, that's why I was like, that's what my favorite part of it, because we all know the statistics about like mental health, especially in the disability community. I mean, the parents and the individuals. So I just felt like everybody should have access to that. And it doesn't have to be like that it can only be in your house or can only be one-on-one. Like you can go to a yoga studio and do it the same way anybody else would. Like there should be no reason. I've had people who like they do it with with a chair if the mobility is limited. I went to I did a class at like not a group home, but they brought like individuals from a few different places like to this one location. I think it was through the Arc. And I had a girl who was fully in a wheelchair who like did, she was only able to like move her upper body, but like she participated in the whole class, and she was able to modify and we made it work. And I felt like got all the benefits that, everybody else did. So
absolutely. There's so much more than just doing the actual poses.
Yeah.
We actually have someone who volunteers once a month for our nonprofit. Jackie Rudderman, I don't know if you know who she is, but she's a yoga teacher at Jaipur.
Oh yeah.
Yoga, and she does it privately, and she does a class every month, yoga nidra, meditation and sound bath for our parents.
That's so good.
Once a month as a donation to our work, and it's people love it, and it's so important for the parents, it's so important for all family members, but the individuals as well.
Yeah,
who have a disability, especially a yoga nidra where you're just
I
laying
mean, I
there
just
and
went to one on
relaxing.
Sunday. We had one at our studio, and I was like, "Ugh, this is like, I wanted to float home,
Yeah,
but you know,
it's so great.
yeah,
It's just the benefits of yoga are just endless.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I'm so glad that there's been this um, overlap of the disability,
yeah,
work and yoga.
yeah.
What have been the um have people who have participated in the class, the inclusive yoga class,
Hmm.
um with Manal, have you seen any, have people improved with their
Yeah.
ability to do the poses,
Hmm.
and what has come out of those classes
Yeah, I mean,
that
I've
struck you?
definitely seen a progression, and even like I've seen the progression of Manal as a teacher. Like when
Mhm.
we first started out, I think we both were kind of almost holding back a little bit,
Mhm.
which I would do really in any class of beginners.
Mhm.
I would get to know my students
Mhm.
and where I can push them to and all of that. So it's funny because I think if Manal and I pulled up like the original class that we taught, like in our notebooks, like
Mhm.
we would probably laugh now because everybody has come so far, but also we've gotten to know everybody so
Mhm.
much more and learned like, okay, like you can do this. Like you don't
Yeah.
need to you don't need to, sit down and you can do this, you can do it. And
Yeah.
like kind of the encouragement and pushing people. And then also just like learning how to use more props in the room and, to get people to where they need to be. But also just like it's funny because I teach a Sunday morning class, just a regular public open level class. And sometimes like in those classes, if somebody is doing something differently, I'm like, oh, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? So
Mhm.
it's been nice in this class because there's it's something nice about the flexibility of it where like, all right, you know what? I can see that she just is having a tough day and it's okay. Like she doesn't need to do every single pose today. Maybe she's gonna take child's pose a little bit more. Like that's totally fine. That's just what she needs. She's still getting like the community, the benefit, the movement. There is movement going on and all of that. So I think it's just also like it's been a good lesson for me even the way I practice yoga of like, all right, I don't have to do everything everybody's doing all the time and it's still okay, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So, because yoga's, listen, like the westernized version of yoga has like been pushed a little bit, like to the limit of
Mhm.
like the being this pretty Instagram thing. So, right.
I'll be in the back of the class because you
Same.
girls can have it.
Same.
Have it.
Yes, same. So, we've tried really hard at Iris, like in general, outside of just this sensory class, to like make it an inclusive space where
Mhm.
it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like everybody has to be doing the same thing all the
Mhm.
time and look the same way and be in
Right.
the pose the same way and all of that because all of our bodies are different.
Yeah.
Whether you have a disability or not, every body is different and everybody is different on any particular day,
Right.
So it's not.
That's why I had to tell a friend of mine. I was like, look, don't feel intimidated
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you meet yourself where you are.
exactly.
Don't worry about and I'm like, go in the back, on the
Yep.
side,
Yeah.
wherever, and just do you.
Yeah.
You're there for your
Hmm.
own personal purpose. They're there for theirs.
Yeah.
And I had to say that a few times before. I was like, okay, she got comfortable. I was like, your body's your body. Know
Yes.
yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then eventually she's like, thank you. Because I'm like, you see me, I'm like, some days I'm like, I can't even do that today.
I
So,
know. I know.
And
and it's
sometimes
okay.
Yeah.
it's taken me many, many years, but sometimes if I get a little queasy or I just feel like I don't want to do that, I'm finally at a place in my life where I just
Yeah.
lay down
Yeah.
when
Right.
everybody's doing their poses, and I'm
Child's
just
pose. And I'm
and I,
just like, and I'm okay with
and
that.
I'm
Yeah.
just listening and I'm
Yep.
relaxing,
Hmm.
and that's something that can happen in a yoga class, in a typical yoga class as well. So it can happen in
Yeah.
any yoga class.
I mean, that's been such a lesson for me in being in the disability
Yeah.
community because I
Mhm.
had three neurotypical kids before I had my daughter with Down syndrome. And when I remember the stuff that used to stress me out about my older kids, like you just get so caught up in motherhood and these
Mhm.
like checking these boxes that are just BS,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Um, and I don't have any different expectations for my daughter with Down syndrome, but I just leave so much more room. I see the big picture in a
Yes.
in a different way. And I've tried to stress that to her teachers too. Like because her teacher her kindergarten teacher who all my kids had her. I love her. She's a wonderful human. She's very academic based, and I've had to say to her, like, listen, this is big picture for us. Like, I don't care if the third worksheet of the day doesn't get done. Like, her being in this classroom is about
Yeah.
so much more
Yes.
than every single thing getting done the right way, So it's just been such an eye-opening
Yeah.
experience of that shift.
And it's
And
liberating for the parent to not
yes,
have
I know.
to
It is.
focus on
I
the
know.
minutia of
Yeah.
the schoolwork
Yeah.
because it's not as important necessarily,
Right.
depending on the kid.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's these are life lessons for life in general.
Yeah.
When you have a kid with a disability,
Yeah.
your perspective changes. And
Yeah.
you're like, you really can separate, what's really important in life and
Exactly.
what's just paying attention to what the rat race
Yeah.
in the world. So
Exactly. Yeah.
which is not as important as we all know.
Well, and I think it's made me a better mom to like all of my kids, where
Yes.
I'm like, okay, just do what makes you happy. Like,
Yeah. As long as you can
focus on
support
what makes you
yourself.
happy and what.
As long as you can support yourself.
Exactly. Well, yes, that too, but
You're
so
safe.
yes, exactly.
Well, this
So,
this is really wonderful.
thank you.
How can people find out about your well, I guess they can go on your website.
Yeah. So the yoga studio is irisyoganj.com. And my publishing company is called Four Clovers Publishing. That was for my four daughters. So you can go to fourcloverspublishing.com. Or you can email me at hello@tarynlagonigro.com, which I can put in, I don't know, or I'll make sure you have it on the.
Yeah, I'll send it out with the link.
Okay, thank you. Because if you send me an email there, I can direct you to any of the other things.
That's great. All right, does anybody online have any questions? You can unmute yourself if you do. No? Okay. Well,
Thank you,
thank you
everybody.
so much. We are going to end the recording and we will have the video of this online. So thank you.
Alma,
Oh, mhm.
I have a quick question. It doesn't need to be recorded. It's okay.
Oh. Well, we'll leave it on if it's about the speaker.
Hi there. Thank you so much for this talk. So I love what you're doing. I got a little lost in the details, so this question maybe you answered, but is there a class that's just like mixed, everybody? Because I feel like that would be so lovely, and I want like to come to it, and I want to bring my kids because I hate this like segregation of.
Yeah, I know. So the Wednesday 5 p.m. class, anybody can come to take the class. It's not restricted to individuals with disabilities. It happens to be just attended by individuals with disabilities right now, but it's not restricted to that. And anybody from that class or from any population can take any of the other classes at the studio. I always tell people if you're going like to come to take mine because I am the most experienced in modifying if needed for an individual. Like Manal, who teaches for me, she comes and takes my Sunday class almost every week or every other week. So there's flexibility in either direction. It just, like I said, it happens that on the Wednesday, it's only right now attended by the disability population, but you are welcome to come and take it.
Anyone else have a
Well, so
question?
does that mean kids can come 9 to 13, or you said 16, if a parent is there as
If a
well?
parent is there, and this we say across the board at any of our classes, parents always know the maturity level of their kids. And if your child can take a 1 hour class and participate and follow along, we've had kids who are under 16. My own children, my 12-year-old and 11-year-old will come and take my class with me, what that I teach. So it's really, we kind of defer to the parent as far as an age. I wouldn't have like my 6-year-old come and take, take one of the open level adult classes. But we don't cut the age off.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
today. I'm going
Appreciate
to end
it.
the recording and we'll see you all soon. Have a great weekend, everyone.